braved the rain to attend floor meetings across the Northshire on Tuesday, March 5th, Town Meeting Day, and also went to the polls to cast Australian ballots in several communities. In the closely watched Select Board race in Manchester, political newcomer Jonathan West defeated incumbent Select Board member Laurie Coons by a razor-thin 11-vote margin, 601 to 590, according to unofficial voting results. Both candidates were stationed at the Manchester Town Hall on Tuesday afternoon as the voting was underway. In other races in Manchester, incumbent Town Clerk Anita Sheldon was re-elected after a challenge by Jennifer Sherman. Heidi Chamberlain retained her Select Board seat, running unopposed. In other local Select Board races, Sunderland voters returned Richard Zenz for another term, along with newcomer Todd Lawrence. Incumbent Marty Nadler, who had been appointed to the Select Board last fall, squeaked out a one-vote victory margin over Mike Pugliese, who is also a member of the town's Planning Commission. In Arlington, incumbent Select Board member Cynthia Browning won re-election by a 100-vote margin over challenger Joe Jervis. Voters in Arlington also opted to make the town's treasurer position an appointed one rather than an elected one. Elsewhere in Londonderry, voters re-elected two Select Board members, Tom Cavanaugh and James Fleming. During their floor meeting, voters also approved hiring a short-term rental administrator and gave a thumbs up to a 1% option tax on meals and alcohol during floor voting on Tuesday. However, they turned down a 1% option tax on sales. At the polls, voters approved almost $800,000 in bonds to help finance two wastewater systems that will service both of the town's north and south villages. The voting margins were similar in both cases, 232 to 134 in favor of Article 1, which called for a new community wastewater system in the North Village area, and 228 to 136 for the South Village. Another closely watched vote across the region was for the Taconic and Green Regional School District, which was seeking voter approval for a nearly $39 million budget, about a 5.7% increase from last year's. But education spending and budgets have become hot topics this year as a combination of factors ranging from increased healthcare costs, disappearing federal dollars winding down in the wake of the COVID pandemic, some unintended consequences of legislation passed 2 years ago, which altered the student weighting formula, or the actual cost of educating children from different backgrounds, but had the effect of incentivizing some school boards to boost their spending proposals beyond what they might have been because of a tax cap provision. And increasing school construction costs prompted projected school tax rates to rise to the 15 to 20% range. Nevertheless, voters in all 9 towns of the Taconic and Green said yes to the school district's budget proposal by an overall 2,038 to 825 vote margin. In Winhall, voters returned Stuart Coleman to the Select Board and Meredith Dens to the School Board. The school budget and the town budget also passed off the floor. In Dorset, all the articles in the town warning, including the budget proposal, passed. 3 members of the Select Board, Megan Thorne, Liz Ruffa, and Henry Chandler, ran unopposed and were re-elected. In Weston, incumbent Select Board member Jim Linville was returned to office, and voters also elected 2 new Select Board members, Chris Morrow and Howie Brosseau. All the articles in the town warning were passed, including the town's budget and its highway department budget. Weston votes off the floor and held its town meeting this year at the Walker Farm, rather than the Weston Playhouse, which is still undergoing repairs from last summer's flooding. Vermont also held a presidential primary. Joe Biden handily won the Democrat primary, and Nikki Haley was the apparent winner in the Northshire towns, as she was statewide in the Republican primary. Vermont was one of about a dozen states voting in the presidential Super Tuesday primary voting, and the only state where Haley defeated Trump. For the GNAT-TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.